Good morning, everybody. Welcome, welcome, game changers. Welcome to the end game, the end of everything outside of God and of the One. New days have begun. Can you feel it? New tests and trials, new ways to see things and learn through the lens of love and only love. Welcome. My name is Juniper Bloom Mystique. Today, I have a message from Commander Ashtar that's very important. I need to talk about some shifts that have recently occurred that do affect all of you that are important to know at this time. That will help you stay or go, right? Because this is the end of ways. This is the end of days for some and the end of ways for all. So we must be learning and using everything every day to grow. And not only that, my friends, is truly about being of service. So before I get into this very important message, I'm going to do this video a little different today. And there's also a message for my twin soul and for all of us to consider what is going on at this time. Because some are not taking things seriously. Some are refusing to hear the call. Some are not standing in love and bringing love for all. So this is very important to understand and to hear for those that can hear the call, because you are still being measured at this time, okay? Because you're in the end of ways. We're in the end of days, okay? Everything must be done through the lens of God. And if it is not, that's not good. So who am I? A lot of people like to throw judgment towards me when I say this, but that's my job to spark your judgment. But I'm going to tell you, it's not accurate. Because everything I say and do, I prove left, right, and center. It's been proven and proven and proven and proven, and it still is being proven today, God says. The problem is, most of you look through the wrong lens. You have to open your heart, and instead of waiting to see the proof right away, listen, and the proof will be shown. Watch to see the proof, okay? Don't assume that what I say isn't real, because I am the return of Christ. I didn't just bring it about. I am the return of Christ, and God wants me to change that. When I say that, I say I've spent the last 4 years bringing about the return of Christ, and everybody's like, you didn't. We all did. No, you didn't. I am the return of Christ. I am the return of Christ. These were my lifetimes that I talk about. It was my lifetime painfully unfolding in front of all of you, and unfortunately, it brings judgment about. Now, God does not judge. That is the distorted version of the reality of what is happening to you. Judgment is the shadow, and that is what all of you bring forth that needs to be healed in you. So what you see in me is a reflection of you. What you see in anybody is a reflection of you and you only. It is a tool to help you see what needs healed at this time. All of your relatives, your relationships, they're all reflections of you and your karmic blueprint. So use them wisely, my friends. For bringing about the return of Christ was painful, and it took me 5 years to do, and it was my lifetimes. I am the return of Christ. I cleared Mount Shasta. I sat on Saturn and rose Atlantis with Hermes, the god, and I lassoed it. I undid my contract from where I died at Lake Titicaca. That was the hub of Atlantis, which stretched back to Machu Picchu. They told me this when I took us into 7D, and I cleared it all. Then I activated pyramids. Activating pyramids, mind you, is not normal, and nobody can do that except for the hand of God. So I went to Fiji and activated a pyramid there, Myanmar, Machu Picchu, Budapest, Indonesia, Thailand, Ecuador, Kilimanjaro, Congo, MIDM has helped me too. And during that time, we got a blessing. So what you don't realize is that Jesus was held captive. He didn't die on a cross. The cross was the Ankh. When they murdered him, the Last Supper, through poisoning him through John the Apostle, the cross broke. And that is why they hung him on a cross, because they held his soul captive, which is my twin soul. And I spent years battling that, and I won. And it was not an easy feat, mind you, and one that can only be done through my lifetimes because they were mine. Okay, so I am the return of Christ. I didn't just bring it about. I undid where I was undone. Make sense? So we undid the unholy grail. I undid the unholy grail, and also through the blessing of my new walk-in twin soul, because My original one chose not to stay. His heart was too far into the darkness. And he didn't make it all the way, but I did. I survived that. I survived that struggle and that pain and learned the lessons all the way. And I was given a blessing. And I'm going to talk about him a little bit more after my message from Commander Ashtar too, okay? Because this is truly about humility. Everything I'm saying has unfolded in real time in front of these people that watch this channel. And all of you can watch it too. And yet they continue to throw judgment my way. And that's not good, because who I am is real. I am not full of ego. I have no ego. I'm in the new earth. Okay, I barely had an ego from the beginning because of who I am, but people throw that at me too. It's I. Trust me, it is my life that undid it all. And it played out in real time for all of you to see. So I undid the unholy grail and returned to Jesus and Mary Magdalene on Christmas Day in 22, live on this channel. But I've done many, many, many things, many, including drying up the Nile after turning it blood red, replacing the crystal in the core from darkness to light, calling back my power from that lifetime of Sekhmet. And my new DM has risen. He finally took on the lifetime from Jesus and Mary Magdalene. He called that power back, and he aligned with that a while ago. And now recently he took on the one from Horus. Horus has fully returned. So all of God has fully returned, and I am the one it returned to. So this is the earth that has changed, and now all of you must change too, okay? So in order to understand that, it takes some time. It takes some processing, because who I am is real, and it's all proven. So it's not something that your ego or shadow can process through. You must heal them. And the more you heal them, the more you see love, and the more you choose to battle that shadow, because it's a soul battle for you, the more you will rise and see clearly what is true. That is the message, part of the message today. So I'm going to get right into the message of Commander Ashtar, because it's very necessary at this time. So to be here and not be of service is a detriment all the way, because it's not just about you, my friends. It's about those who can hear the call of God and rise to help him in every way. Now, when I tell you I hold the keys, it is my path you will rise through either way. That is because I brought about the rapture, my friends. I undid all the damage that was done. I freed all the souls in the darkness off of this earth. My part, not anybody else's. Understand this. People throw this at me all the time. It wasn't just you, Bree. It's not just you. You didn't just do that. I did my part. My part is the return of Christ. What is yours? Because I'm sure it doesn't have anything to do with what I'm talking about today. So understand the separation there, okay? What I do, however, affects you all. And now you all must rise through the path that I did, that I brought about, because it's the end of tides. It's the change in tides. It's the end of ways and the end of days for some outside of God. Okay. Judgment Day is not judgment at all. For in fact, Spirit says it is. You reap what you sow. It's karmic based. So everything in your life is a reflection of your karma and where you once went against God. And it is your job to rise each time those present themselves and choose love and only love. Revelations 21:12. So I cleared all 12 gates of darkness, and I opened up the 13th of heaven, and I took the earth and cleared it all, brought all the animals through, and they have their own kickback too. And I took it all into the new earth. And now you all must rise, or you don't. That is up to you. For what you call Judgment Day is you reap what you sow day. Some will go, some will stay. I'm already in the new earth, and there's only a few of us in truth, and some will never know life this way. So the ones I've already brought into the new earth are the 144,000, those that choose love and can see, like De La Roca. He is definitely there. I don't see him not staying. I do the heart reviews. I see the hearts. You get a clear contract. You walk through the gates and everything is renewed. You have to be reborn. Okay. And then there's a group of some will never know life this way. They didn't learn the lessons. They're no longer of God or of love, or they never were at all. Okay. That is where we're going. Here's what Commander Ashtar has to say. I channeled it right before I came on. I'm like, is there a being who wants to give a message? And this is what they said. Supreme being of light. We're going to make everything right. That's what they said. And then Commander Ashtar came in. He says, we are watching to see choices, reactions, and responses, and who is choosing to align with the one. Listen carefully. The one who brought it all about. I told you, you guys have to rise through me. That's what the Bible tells you. You rise through Jesus, which is not just Jesus. It's a masculine and a feminine, me and my beautiful new twin flame. And I'm going to talk about him some more. There's an important message here for him too. So let me read this again. So they said, Supreme Being of Light, we are going to make everything right. Then Commander Ashtar came in and said, we are watching to see choices, reactions, responses, and who is choosing to align with the one who brought it all about. Your judgments serve no one, but are hurting all that has been done. Humility is required to see the error of your ways. And it was just error, ERR. Relationships, desires that serve no one will be amplified at this time. Seek God now before it's too late, as all must rise through seeing what has been done. Commander Ashtar. Listen to that again and let that sink in, because that's very important. And it's something I've been saying, and people choose to throw daggers my way every time. And it's not just me making it up. Even the Bible tells you this. Okay. Jesus will return to bring you home. You must rise through him. The one who brought it about. And that is me in my DM. If you actually watch my videos, Ecuador, all the later ones where we opened the gates, the return of Horus, he and I are always at the gate. It's him and I together. He and I united. Now there's something that happened there that I'm going to clear even more, because yesterday was quite painful for me, and I'm sure for him too. And these things are aligning, not just to see the reactions of me and him, but the reactions of all of you. Everything is being measured through the lens of God. This is Judgment Day. That's what that means. They are looking to see what you do, where you're outside of love and where you're not aligned. And you may get one chance to redo it, but not many, because we're in the end of time. Okay? So all has already been done. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what has happened being beyond your mental capacity to understand. That is why God says, don't look for the answers. Trust me now. And then the answers will come. So if God says do this, it's because you're not just here for you. You're here to help others too. So you can't possibly see all the reasoning why sometimes he says to do the things he says to do, because we can only see what we can see, my friends. Meaning, where there is wounds, we cannot see through. Where there is shadow, we cannot see through. And God is asking you for soul growth. Every which way you go, everything you do is about soul growth. And if you can't meet that soul growth, you're going to miss a mark. Okay, you're going to miss something that's required, because the new earth requires a rebirth of you. No matter which way you go, you have to be reborn, because what I truly did is bring the end of ways. So this is a great reset. And I talk about that in all of the videos that I do. When I activated Sphinx the first time, Ecuador, they tell you that too. That's when they first told me I was Sekhmet before I dried the Nile. I didn't see that coming either. So your judgments do not serve you. For what you guys don't realize is you've literally watched my life unfold on this channel. It's been painful. It required so much devotion to just God. And I didn't know what was coming. I didn't know. I held strong in my love for God, and whatever he told me to do, I did it, and I did it diligently. Now you must be able to know the difference between the shadow and God. That's why I post all the information I do in the videos that I do. It is up to you to use the tools I provide. Okay. So again, these energies right now are outside your limited, conditioned mind of the ego. Your mind is of the ego is of the mind. It is a third dimensional construct. And somebody sent me yesterday something about my ego, and that it's all about I. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's a very limited perspective of her reflection, not mine, because I don't have an ego. I almost died. My first twin soul gave up his life to help purify the ascension line. Okay. So there's a lot here you don't realize, and your judgments hurt you, and they hurt the collective soul. So if you're not willing to rise and to grow as a soul, you won't make it through. And so many people continue to judge me as reflections of them. Okay. So there's a lot of humility required at this time. There's a lot of lessons in love. And with that, I was actually drawn to pull some cards. So the decks that I was drawn to pull are my Shaman's Dream Oracle, not one that I created, but one that I love. A very good deck, and I've used it quite a lot. You can tell by the wear and tear. And then I have two of my decks. So I have a third one coming because of my DM. I'm so excited about that. So because my DM chose to rise, and he's been rising through love, okay? But again, I have a message for him in the end. When recently I did a art healing thing, a creativities healing workshop, because you don't have to be an artist to do it, but we have to have that brain-body connection, right? And I thought I was going to redo the Nile painting because I still haven't finished that one since I dried the Nile. But instead, it was twin flames that came through, and it said it was time and a snake. And then shortly after that, the workshop of Horus came through, and the Sphinx was used, and its purpose is done, and it no longer has energy now. It was quite beautiful. And not enough people apparently are awake enough to see that one yet, but it's an important one to see because my amazing twin flame has risen with me. So because of that, I have a third deck coming through, one that I'm very, very proud of. Oh my gosh. And it's in the works. I have now 12 cards coming through in it. But before that, I couldn't draw anymore. It was like this block. So sometimes in your life, things will block. You will get sick. You will feel funky. Things will try to tell you what is needed to do. It is your job to listen, to see between the veil and the falsehoods and the lines, and dig deeper into what it is that is needed, excuse me, at this time. Okay. So yesterday I had a painful something going on from the morning to the end. It was not nice. And I had people throwing very dark energies my way out of the blue. And then something was going on with my twin flame. I couldn't quite figure out, and it hurt. And sometimes, it's an illusion. And sometimes I need to dig into what needs healed. Okay. This time it wasn't so much of an illusion, but it was at the same time. And again, I will talk about that in the end of this with the DM part, because there's something very special I need him to know, and I need you all to hear. So it's not just for him, because he and I are the one together. He and I, not my old one. He and I are one together. Now, can you imagine walking into those shoes? We'll talk about that more. So I'm going to pull some messages, see what they have to say. And then I want to give a little bit of a lesson in humility in every way for all of us. Something that I've had to learn too, because I had to figure out what was going on. I had to dig deeper into what that I could do to help and to stop the pain and to figure out what was to heal it, right? To fix it. Because this one wasn't a shadow piece necessarily. It was a little bit more complex because my story is not normal. And getting a walk-in twin flame is not normal. That is nothing that's ever happened before. So when one twin flame dies, the other does. And that's what happened to your God. Adam and Eve, they got Adam to turn against Eve by blinding him. Okay, blinding him, enticements, ego, things like that got into play. And how did he have ego? They created one, right? False manipulations of the mind's eye through free will. So that was the first time. And then there was other ones. When I cleared Mount Shasta, there was a Native American masculine and feminine. It might have been us. I couldn't quite process that, but it was very painful. So Mount Shasta part 2, I was crying a lot because I had to do it on my own, unfortunately, because not because my new twin flame didn't care, but because, can you imagine being a walk-in to Jesus? Can you imagine being a walk-in to this story, to this journey? And trying to replace, so it's me, right? And he thinks he has to replace somebody that I loved. When he finally opened his heart yesterday, I was able to see clearly. And I will continue to provide the healings that is required for that. But all of you need to let that go as well. So we all have energy of the old DM trying to pierce through. And I'll talk about that a little bit more. And I don't know if it's necessarily trying to pierce through. It's just time to let it go. Okay. So big shifts are happening for you all. Big. Okay. Big shifts. So let's see what the cards have to say. So we had a message from Commander Ashtar, and now we will do, I'm going to do that again. I need to clear the energy. By the way, you need to upgrade your tools of divination. They were created in third dimensional reality, and they need to be upgraded to match the energies. I'll do another video on that another day if you don't know how. But when you're using them, just know they may not be connecting to the right energies. So some people think they're connected to earth, but they're not. They're connected to the old ways. So I've cut it off from God. That's why some people can see and some not. The ones that can't see can choose to rise above or not. Okay. The ones that can see, like De La Roca, can see a lot. It's because he is not connected to the old world. He's connected to the light. Okay. So the ones that are not think they see the ways, but they don't. They're constantly in ego and judgment and shadow. The ones that are connected to the light can start to see the work that I've done, even if in layers. Okay. Even if they can't quite yet see the one, they can see through in layers. This is important to understand. So where you can't see, you're connected to the shadow. If you can't see what I've done, it's because you're connected to the shadow. So some people think they're connected to the new world, and they are not. They are in the old world, and all they can see is ego, and they think Mount Shasta is still filled with light, and so on. They can't tell it's been cut off from the energy. All right, that one came through again. Whoa. Couple more out of this. Oh, these are popcorning out. These are very important messages, and there will be lessons given at this time. Very important lessons given at this time, because even those that have risen are dealing with the shadow, and it's not serving you well. So not everybody, right? Some know the tricks of the trade. Some are willing to self-growth and know that it's not about them. It's about service to God. So we don't just rise for ourselves. We rise for service to others, because we all affect each other. So that's why people throw their shade in my way and say, it wasn't just you. Yes, it was just me, because it was my life. None of you can activate pyramids and move poles and create 5 more. That's not normal. That's why they call me a supreme being of light. You understand? That's what they were calling me. Supreme being of light. They will make everything right. Okay. All right. So even the DM, if he is not showing love my way, others don't show love my way. And it's a lesson that everybody has to learn. And that presented yesterday as well. But there's a reason for that. Okay. So we're going to talk about that. But this is, so now I'm pulling from the next deck. So we have a message here to give. Okay. Sometimes I do cards because they help strengthen that message. However, the message usually comes through before I get the cards out. But the beauty of that is it is clarification, right? So I use these for myself too. When you hear people say, I don't need them, they might be in their ego a little bit, because there's times where I'm like, I can't see, I need the cards, right? Like I'm too much in my head. These emotions are too heavy. And so even I will use the cards, because if I'm not the clearest of purest channel, they can help me get back that way. So they're wonderful. There's a lot to release here. There's wonderful tools of divination that help us. It's like our tool bag, right? We have a tool bag that will help us through all the obstacles and trials and tribulations. And if you're not using the correct tools, you won't have divination. Bum, bum, doo, doo, doo. What else do we need to see? Oh, yeah. Now, my new twin flame, my only twin flame, honestly, because there's stuff he doesn't know either, is something special. Ooh, these were coming through earlier for Instagram as well. So I've had to spread my wings a little bit and be more in flight, because again, it is this path that everybody has to see. Now, if they don't see it directly through me, they see it in the energy. If you can't see either, you're in trouble complete. All right. So this is, we have quite a message going on here. So I pulled the surrendering cards to you guys, and there's a lot y'all need to surrender. Okay. Oh, yes, exactly what I said. Oh my gosh. Oh, I love these. Okay. Oh, I love these. Okay. I love this deck. This is my surrender deck. I've had to change a couple cards because they're a little lower in vibration. But as the more you use it and bring it into the newer energies, the better and clearer the messages will be. Okay. So I'm going to start with the first group before I give the rest of the message. But I also have my deck, right? I have 2 decks in here that I created. The ones that I created are Ascension Portal Messages, Messages of the Gods, Ascension Portal Messages, Healing Messages. These came through as I was activating the portals, and I didn't realize what I was doing. I didn't realize the brevity of it because they had me, this was on my own awakening. And so I would just follow the nudges, and it turned out beautifully. My path to righteousness that everybody threw judgment to, yeah, that probably hurt you, because that's a blessing. That's a gift only given to those who choose to see love and grow through the one completely. So it's a blessing, it's a gift, not awarded to all. All right, so that's why I charge for that, and I will charge for that, and that has nothing to do with anything. Except for your judgments reflecting you, right? Because I have a right to charge for that. I worked very hard. When you see the ones on this one, most of them are just for you to see and witness. In order to go through them will spark your shadow big time. So you have to be ready. So that is why. And I talk about that. So there's a couple decks here that are mine. The Ascension Portal Messages of the Gods. And then I have the Surrender deck, the Shaman deck. And then my other deck I'll show you in a minute. And yeah, that's it. Okay, so the Shaman deck messages. First of all, God is creating right now a perfect storm for you. There's a perfect storm brewing. And the reason why these do these is to make everything, it's like a tower moment. This is just like the tower moment card, right? So when you don't listen to spirit, they tell you things for a reason, because the path you may be on, the things you may be doing are falling. And so where there is not solid foundation, not built through God, it's going to implode on you. Okay. But sometimes too, like things happen in order to get you to see clearly, right? Like I remember in my awakening at first, they took my job away from me and I freaked out. I was a psychology degree. I wasn't spiritual. I definitely wasn't religious. God was always in my heart, and I knew I was different that way. But when I first had my awakening, all these things started happening to me. And then I ended up being like kind of put into this situation where I had to move across the state that I was in, and I wasn't happy about it. And I didn't see that I was moving towards my twin flame because I didn't see that yet. That hadn't played out yet. But during that time, like I was in the behavioral field and I loved my job. I worked with severe behavioral, the ones who really struggled and used violence as their ways of communication. So I was the protection. I was the only ways teachers would work with these students is if I was with them. Okay. People would only work with these students if I was with them because they were so afraid of them. That was my job. And it was very rewarding. I loved it. And I very rarely got beat up. I'll tell you that because I got it. You know what I'm saying? But within that, I wasn't quite listening. And they were trying to redirect me toward my heart center and how to unite with my twin flame. But I didn't see that coming. So this is what people do. They want more answers. If they don't see, they want to do what they're doing. They don't care what God says. And God says, you don't need the answers. Just trust me. Okay. Because I see more than you. And I wasn't listening, and I wasn't completely focused on that, even though these things were happening to me. And they took my job, imploded. Like I've never been fired. I didn't quit. It just completely went way high. It was like so nuts. They falsely fired me, and I was going to like, they were going to get sued for it and everything. And then I broke my toe. And when I broke my toe, I was like, it was so much pain. And I'm like, what the heck happened? And immediately got the message of, listen, do this. Don't be afraid. And it was right at Christmas time. I lost my income. I was like panicked. I've got a single mom, and their dad doesn't partake in caring for them, never really has, very, very little. So I was like, oh my God, like there went my money. It's Christmas time. And God said, listen, we got you. And so on blind faith, I had to listen and create from there. So it created the perfect storm to where I could listen. Otherwise, I may not have. Okay. So sometimes that happens. And then it's there to force you to transmute the pain. So only fools embrace what hurts them. 22. Only fools continue to embrace what hurts them. Others know it's time to let go, even if they don't want to. Okay. So I was asked to grow. I was asked to quit things. I was asked to do things. Was it easy? No. You guys don't realize how difficult and painful my journey was. And most of you refuse to see that, right? They just can't see past that. So that's why I tell you, this was my life. This was my journey. It unfolded in front of all of you, and none of you could have done what I did. And now you must rise through what I did. But all of you have your own purpose, and so I don't know why you're trying to take away from me, because I don't want to take away from you. I don't go to your channel and talk bad about you. Right? I don't judge you. God is love. Okay. So when you're lost in space and you're needing direction, this one is a good card. Okay. So we have a perfect storm has been created. Don't be the fool that tries to hold on to what hurts them. It is time to transmute the pain, no matter how difficult. And when we are growing and we are trying to listen to those guides, right? It's like lost in space. I need direction. And the reason we get there is because we're too focused on the forward and the backward. When you're here and now and you take things in this moment in time, it's easier to transmute that energy of self-sabotage or what tries to stop you in the moment of growth, because you're slowing down and you're here in the now and you're listening to the true call of God, and you use your tools in space. So this is like, you know what, it's time to grow, but don't focus on tomorrow. Just like what I told you about how I broke my toe, I kept focusing on, oh my gosh, tomorrow. And they were like, no, everything happens right now. And I was like, oh, I didn't know. Right. So we don't know until we know, you know. And then we have empty well, time to replenish. Empty well, time to replenish talks about the constant need of self-love. Okay. Self-love and self-growth are tools that are required in the balance of creation. All right. If I am not loving myself enough to let go of what hurts me, I'm not going to listen to my guides, and there will be too many storms created. So overwhelm and plenty, the overflow. Again, the way to deal with overflow, the way to deal with overwhelm, the way to deal with, sometimes we block abundance. Did you know we have a limit for joy capacity? That's in my course for self-sabotage. Quite interesting stuff, I tell you. So the way to get around this is this, your key. Focus on the here and the now. That's the only way you're going to hear and see clearly. And I'm going to do a little more for that one too. So a tidy house brings clarity with organization. So this is, again, reflective of my course self-sabotage that I still have a little to put in there, actually, that I just came up with. But it's very important. And this is kind of a reflection in that too. So people are sabotaging themselves big time right now. But a tiny house brings clarity and organization, because where there's chaos, clarity can't come through. How do you bring something clear in a chaotic space and mind? Boom, right? So when I'm thinking too far about tomorrow, too much about this and that and the other, and I'm not bringing organization and clarity into my home and my heart, my mind cannot see clearly either. Okay. So then we have anchoring into the right things. This is an important message at this time, because it came through on Instagram this morning too. Anchoring into the right things can provide strength beyond what you can imagine. Okay, so what are you anchored into? This goes again with here and the now only. Anchor into God. Let God be your guide. You don't have to know all the answers. That's your ego. God's in charge. This is God's earth, and you either rise or you don't, but it's outside of our mind. So why are you waiting for the right reasons, the right things? You're wasting your time. You don't have time to process it quick enough. You must rise through love. Okay. Genuine comfort is found in balance and self-love. Boom. This is what I love these messages for, because I said that in the first one as well. Okay. When we let go of things we're used to, it brings us into a zone that's uncomfortable. We're unfamiliar, and we are creatures of habit. Again, this is reflective in my self-sabotage course. So genuine comfort is found in balance and self-love. That is where you will find new comfort, okay? When you stay in balance and you're in a focus of self-love and let going of what serves you and listening to God without expectation and worry and knowing that we are here to serve God, not just for ourselves. We don't rise just for ourselves. If you're not of service, it's a waste of life. Lay of the land, layout of the land changes when open doors are used. Boom. Okay. What does this mean? Layout of the land changes only when open doors are used. Everybody has this misconceived perception that they're rising either way. No. It's a rite of passage. Most of you can't even watch my videos without judging. So you think that's your entry into the new earth? No. No. Lay of the land talks about changing when open doors are used. So when God presents an opportunity, it's taking it without embracing what brings you pain, without expectations and demanding of him that you need more before you do. Okay, because God sees more than you. So once you take those soul growth avenues, those doors you can't quite see through, yet God says, do this, and it scares you, but you take it anyways, then the land around you changes. Those karmic ties fall away and love rises in miraculous ways. Okay. So in order to get there, we've got some releasing and surrendering to do. Surrender your attachment to results. I can't make this message up if I tried. The formula for success is to do all you can to make things happen. Then let go of the results. This is again telling God, this is your ego. I need to see the outcome. I expected this. This should have happened. Why didn't this happen? What? That's not co-creation. Co-creation is required because that's the lay of the land, because you're in God's earth now. You're in God's earth now, the one who brought it about. So when I tell you it's my earth, how does that make you feel? Like your ego wants to step out and say, no, it's my earth too. You're on borrowed land until you rise. Okay. The formula for success is to do all you can to make things happen. Because it is a king and a queen, not a president, my friends. Holding on too tightly to a desired outcome can sabotage it. And didn't I say this is reflective of my self-sabotage course? Oh yeah, baby. Surrender resentments. This message is so important. We'll see who watches it. Surrender resentments. Holding on to resentments only poisons you. Try to forgive others for their shortcomings and keep moving forward toward positive situations in your life. This will take me into the message about the DM coming shortly. The only DM. And I'm going to talk about him. There's something important he needs to hear, but I think he felt it either way, but all of you need to shift out of it too. Okay. Surrender to miracles. Be open to miracles occurring in your life. Feel and know that these events are real. Let go of any resistance and banish any doubt that miracles can happen. Goes with the message I've given. Can you hear what I say? Are you absorbing everything I say? Or are you going to tell me to slow down? I've had that happen too. Surrender your fear of intimacy. This is a hard one. We think we know what intimacy is, but it's a vulnerable feeling. Why? This is like my message on Facebook this morning. Is like, we need humility and love. Sorry, you might hear my doggy. Love. So we so freely give judgment and ego and fear, but we don't freely give love because it's a vulnerable feeling. It requires self-growth. We are not from an unconditional love state, and we must rise into it. Okay. So surrender your fear of intimacy. You are ready to let love in. Compassionately identify and begin to release any patterns that stop you from opening your heart. Okay. You are ready to let love in. Compassionately identify and begin to release any patterns that stop you from opening your heart, because the new earth is heart-centered. You have to be pure of heart all the way. If you cannot open your heart 100% and listen to God 100% without fear, ego, expectations, and judgments, you're not in the new earth. Surrender to creativity. And then this go with what I said. I had to do a creativity workshop. And what I thought was going to come through didn't. It was about the twin flames. And then shortly after that, Horus returned and I was able to draw again because I lost that for a little bit. So we always need to up level. We always need to surrender to creativity. And I had somebody come to the workshop and kind of give me a little bit and go, I'm not an artist. It's not about being an artist. You don't have to. Creativity comes in multiple ways. Everything you see came from somebody's creativity. Okay. So let your imagination soar. Imagination, right? That thing they tell us to dumb down when we're little. Stay open to all creative ideas about how to pursue a dream or solve a problem, because it might come in ways you didn't see coming. Now, this is also about self-reflection and ego. Okay. So sometimes when you're trying to make your world happen from an old way, God says, nay, it can't anymore because you're no longer there. So now you must surrender to me and listen to here and maybe do this. And that is where your abundance will stay or come in, or something new, or a way to solve the issue you are currently facing. Hence my broken toe. So sometimes we get sick and things fall away in order for us to go, what is happening? Because what I'm trying to do is not working anymore. Right? Let me tell you, and the DM brought a good lesson yesterday, but it's one he had to go through as well. And honestly, the beautiful part about what happened with my twin flame yesterday is that after the pain subsided and I was able to hear him clearly, I saw what was needed. And God gave us a gift with him. So imagine being a twin flame, or just somebody, just a regular person, not even a twin flame. Just imagine being a regular person. And then all of a sudden you're thrust into this position where you're now a walk-in for Jesus, or Horus, or Adam, but everybody's hyper-focused on Jesus, right? And he is, if you watch my videos, he took on that soul recently, and then Horus returned recently and walked into my DM. But you have to watch those videos and not judge, because what did Ashtar say? Sometimes they have me do things to see the reactions of everybody around me, and it is measured through the eyes of God. So be mindful. But recently, yesterday, I was feeling something horrible, and I kept hearing a song I didn't like from my twin flame. Before I get into that, let me finish this off really quick, because this is my other deck. So I have another deck that I created. This was the very first deck I created. So I have 3 now almost, right? Because I'm creating my 3rd. But this is messages from our loved ones and guides, guidance from the other side. Okay. These were channeled and drawn by me. So it's quite original. You can purchase these, but I don't provide the links all the time. Okay. So if it's something you'd want to purchase, you probably have to comment about it or message. People can find them, however. Okay. Because what you guys don't realize is I did all of this from scratch. It wasn't about money and fame. It was all this pain I had to go through, all these judgments I keep rising through. And I just kept listening to God all the way because I am his direct descendant. Why wouldn't I? Time to start a new adventure. This goes with that other card, right? This goes with the other card. We can't walk through doors that we don't accept the adventure to. Okay, so time to start a new adventure. Time to let go of the old. And this is a reflection of the DM message I'm about to give to you. Okay, you see everything outside that door is gray and drab, but inside is where the sun shines. You got to walk through that door for your new adventure. And take your time. So this is really truly about using your time wisely, because we are on borrowed time right now. What I did, there is a final end. Okay. You will not have all the time in the world, you guys, and God's not going to tell you the day. That's ridiculous. If you have anybody coming up going, it'll be this day and it'll be this day, things change. Okay. God makes choices for reasons. So don't assume you know. If I say something's coming, don't assume you know when, because there will never be a final timeline of when. But if you watch my videos, things occur outside of them immediately to you all. Okay, so what I do affects the earth tenfold. Okay, so use your time wisely. I love this one. It's one of my favorite ones. Take your time. It's yours. It was false anyways. Use your time wisely because it's limited. Okay, you need to make every moment count and walk through those doors when they're presented, or your world won't change. Okay, and if you pick up the asshole energy, I call it, which is judgment and all of that ego, and you throw it my way, it hurts you. Because as a master healer alone, let alone the one who brought it all about, I reflect your shadow. It's what I'm meant to do. Okay. So what you see in me is truly a reflection of you. And God has me do certain things to see how people react in truth. So be mindful of that too. All right. So now I'm going to talk about my DM. On this journey, I had two. The first one, when we started to unite, the angels, the fallen angels, it was before I united Jesus and Mary Magdalene, because I didn't know at the time that it was his soul and mine. I didn't. It was all unfolding through me as my awakening, and it was quite painful. And all of a sudden, I combined with this guy I barely knew. Our souls just went whoosh. I realized I lived 2 doors down from him. He asked me on a date, and I went on one date. This is my first one. And then from there, I immediately fell in love with him. And I know he did too, but he didn't express that right. He was on drugs. Okay. So some might think, oh my God, that can't be true. Yes, it is. Sometimes the ones who have bigger things to change have bigger work to do. Okay. But part of what happened in Adam and Eve and so on and so forth was, that's why they would reflect Eve eating the apple. Okay. So I used to smoke pot only, and I couldn't do that anymore. And I didn't see why at the time. So there were some mishaps in our union. He wasn't nice to me, and the shadow got in. So when he didn't listen to God, the shadow gets in. Okay. And then it continually attacks me, which would be Eve, Mary Magdalene, and Sekhmet. And so that's what you guys don't realize, is that's what happened to your God. And that's why they hung Jesus on a cross, because they broke the ankh when they separated the masculine and feminine. And they did it time and time again, taking your power away from God. And then they got all of you to focus on a false God. And then you all throw judgments at the one who it happened to. I couldn't have made this up if I tried, and I wouldn't have. I would have stayed as a psychologist. So, be careful what you're judging. And that's the thing, is my DM, he didn't make the right decisions. And then in the end, after we combined like this, he took off with a fallen angel. He tried to take my soul and put it into the fallen angel, which I think happened in the time of Adam and Eve as well. And it was not through his true heart. It was through the blackness he couldn't see past. Okay. So people do things when they can't see clearly. Number one. Okay. But they don't mean to do. That's how the shadow gets you. It manipulates your free will. So they will get you to do things outside of God because you think that's what's right to do. But that's that 666. And I talk about that. Okay. So this did happen to him and I on the journey. And a lot of people fell off at that time in judgment too, and they didn't meet their marks. We had people that were supposed to rise, that were supposed to bring the Bible through, that were supposed to help with the weather, lots of things. And they ended up going into judgment against me at that time because my DM did too. But he was being battled. Okay. It was a battle. And then I spent the next year being relentlessly attacked, and it took every bit of strength that I had to save that soul. So I called it back twice when I first did it and tried to wake him up, and then we united. And then when he took off again, he anchored back in, and I had to spend a whole year battling for that soul. And let me tell you, that shadow will be relentless. I don't know how I made it. And God called me mahogany. They expected us not to make it. Okay. Because we haven't before, but I made it. I stood stronger than I ever have. And it took a toll on me physically. And people judge that too, because I was so pretty, and I'm still pretty, but I gained, it made me swell up, and my heart swelled up when I activated pyramids and stuff. And people went into judgment against that too, unfortunately. And I worry about that. I'm like, is my new one going to love me? I'm trying to lose this weight, but it's requiring healing for my body. So it's taking a little bit, because I went through everything imaginable the shadow had to throw at me. From shattering my arm, you guys, that was so painful. And I couldn't even have surgery, because if I put drugs into my body, we were in trouble, because my DM was with a fallen angel. Okay. So this is giving you some insight. But it's time to let that go. So can you imagine? So when my original DM refused, by the end, he was choosing love. By the end, I did so much work. He was seeing clearly. He just wasn't strong enough to leave. He tried, and he just wasn't strong enough. And so God gave him one more warning, and he didn't do it. He didn't come. I even heard him like saying goodbye song. You know what I mean? So I was like, it was so sad. but I never got a lot of time with him in truth, right? I felt the love, but it was mostly being attacked, unfortunately. And so then, and this happened on my channel live too, I got a walk-in. God said enough. And I was terrified. I knew we had a time limit. I knew I had to do the workshop, but I didn't want to. And I kept holding space and holding, like, he's going to show, he's going to show. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. I was really hesitant, but I also knew I didn't want to hurt anymore. I also knew it was time to let that go so we can move on for the ascension. And this is why I took us into 7D, because I kept going in strength I didn't know I had. And I kept bringing down all the Christ light through the rays and changing the earth, changing the crystalline grid. And I kept doing it through the attacks by myself. So no, nobody else did this. None of you could do this. This takes a supreme being of light. And you would know that if you watched my videos, okay? And that's what I'm saying, you know, to choose to go against what I've done really does reflect the shadow in you. So then that workshop came, and it was August 30th of 2022. And it was, I even blocked, and looking back now, there were certain energies that were blocked from entering into that one. And I'm glad they were. Okay. But like, I was not well that day. I wasn't. I was scared. I didn't know what was coming. I knew that I was about to lose a twin flame and get a walk-in, and I didn't understand all of that. We don't really die as a soul, but I knew this one was, okay? So what you don't understand is who David was as a soul, he no longer is. That was his name, my original one. And so when I say he died, he died. Okay. But we always die in our lifetimes. Do you know me as Eve? No. Do you know me as Sekhmet? Barely any of you are accepting any of that, right? But I'm this time Brianna and Juniper Bloom. And so that's that distorted information. The piece that never changes doesn't die, but the pieces what you came into do, okay? Does that make sense? So I could never return exactly as Eve, right? And so consider that. Please don't throw judgments at me when I say my twin flame died. I understand everything. I can see back to the beginning of time. I understand the relation to the earth is quantum physics related, and we have not risen there yet. I activated pyramids, and when I did that, I stood at the beginning of time. I stood at the beginning of time when I activated the Sphinx, and then also when I rose Horus through. And also when I processed the earth's death, it went through my physical body because I am the earth. Okay, I'm Mother Earth and he's Father Sky, but you would know that if you watched Horus Return and Sekhmet and Ecuador activation and Kilimanjaro activation and everything that I've done. So stay with me. So that day that I got a walk in, I felt God reach his hand in and stop my DM's heart. I felt his heart stop. It was very, very, very painful. It's not something pleasant. And I felt him take his last breath. And then my emotions hit so hard. I was like, almost like having a panic attack. And God said, stop, we need to keep going. He said, calm down. We need to keep going because we were on limited time. And you can watch it because it was very real. The emotions were very real. I couldn't fake that if I tried. I'm not a good actress. Okay. Not an actor at all. I'm too pure. Like I can't manipulate anybody. I can't fake shit. I wear my emotions on my sleeve. Okay. So as this was happening, I went into sheer panic because I literally felt his heart just stop. And my initial reaction is like, wake him back up, bring it back, you know, because nobody wants anybody. It was not. And so God said, stop, we're on limited time, breathe. Like, we got to keep going. And I was like, okay. And so I kept going. And then I saw God take his soul out. Boom. He literally ripped out his soul. I saw this. And not only did I see it, I felt it. And he tore it in half. The part that was David, he put into something else. It's no longer David. It went backwards because he didn't learn lessons. He couldn't be who he was. So I don't know what it went into. Somebody I knew and I used to talk about, maybe he became a bird. Because if I didn't joke about it, I don't know how I would have processed it. And the part that was me, my twin soul, because that's what twin flames are. They're twin souls split in two with a masculine component and a feminine component. So the part that was me, God put in a new DM, and I couldn't see him, but I could see him put it into a vessel. And then my new DM was born, and the song changed, and the dome of light was completed, and all darkness was, boom, removed out of the ascension. And I felt that shift. And I felt the song, and I had to sit with that for some time. This was a little over a year ago, almost 2 years ago. No, year and a half ago. And I had to process that. It was very painful, and I cried for days. I couldn't help but just cry and cry and cry because it was a death. But then I felt somebody new, and I felt this person in ways I had never felt David before. What you guys don't realize is when I was connected to David, it was so painful. It was constant pain. It was extremely painful. The only time I really felt love with him was when our souls initially went whoop, and I was like, oh, and the song, everything I experienced was off this charts insane. And I knew that was love. And I also knew it was life or death for me because they showed me that. So then I got a walk in, but then my DNA also changed, and who I am as a person has changed some. I'm still Bree, but the twin soul part did change. It shifted into a new masculine. And so I've started to like try to learn who I was, and some of the old ways of doing things was like not quite working. And so I want to say this. Can you imagine being that walk-in? Can you imagine God giving him? I mean, obviously, God tells me he loved me and wanted to be with me. I don't know him, but he knows me. And I didn't realize that at first either. He would watch my videos, I guess, right? So it's somebody who did love me. His heart matched. And so God chose him because he was pure of heart. And so God saw his heart and he loved me. So God chose him. Who he is yet, I don't know. But what we didn't realize is that David's energy was still carrying forward, right? Can you imagine being that walk-in? Can you imagine taking on those shoes, feeling like you have to fill those shoes of Jesus? What a crazy plight, right? Like I don't think I processed that at first. I expected him to just come in and be like my knight in shining armor and change the game and redemption, because God told me he wouldn't be afraid to come. And then there was hesitation and I didn't show, and I had to unite Jesus and Mary Magdalene on my own, and that hurt. And with everything that had happened with David, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I lashed out, and I didn't mean to. And so I've spent the last year healing and realigning and trying to heal and being attacked again. God told me now I've done it like 3 times, choosing love over the shadow, choosing love over the shadow. And recently I really anchored into that. I'm like, enough of this. I don't want to hurt him. I don't want to hurt me anymore. I had to find the strength again after all I went through. And I did, because that love my new DM gives me in my heart is something I've never felt before. It is the most beautiful thing I've ever felt in my life. The most beautiful thing I've ever felt in my life. And I call it making love to me, because to me, that is true love. That's love. That's making love. Like, it doesn't have to do with intercourse and things. It's love to my heart. And it's something I've never had before. David never gave me that, ever. And so when he takes that away, oh, it's I get scared again. I'm like, oh, here we are again, you know, somebody who can't give me that love. But then I have to work on seeing through love. And I try to work on seeing through his lens. And it took me a while, because when he closes his heart off, I can't hear him. I can't see through his lens. But the more that I've become attached to him over this last year, I see points where the old energy of David will creep in, because he also has some of that in him, right? Because he took on my twin soul part. And every one of my lifetimes, Adam and Eve, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Sekhmet and Horus, have that in there. And so he's trying to fill these shoes. And I'm like, please don't, right? But how can you imagine being that walk-in? What a load to carry, you know, and just to be forced into being a king that he didn't see coming, in a twin soul. And can you imagine how he must think I would expect him to be, or want him to be like that? That would be hard. That would be scary as all get out, to rise into something and to feel good enough to fill those shoes. And what if she doesn't love me as much as she loved him? And I can see all this now. And then yesterday, this big thing hit me, and people were being so mean to me. Nobody was seeing me. Remember, things come as lessons. And I had actually reached out for support. I was hurting so bad. And it was not a good day, to the point where I was afraid I was going to break my arm again. I felt like I was being attacked. And I felt like it was coming from the DM, but I didn't quite see it as a shadow. And I couldn't see what to do at first. I was having to deal with that and trying to focus on love and calm down, because that's what Spirit said to do. It's lessons learned. So I was like, oh, okay. But then eventually this nasty song that was playing switched. And I'm like, oh, that's my song. Like, that was a song I gave to him to let him know how I really feel. And I'm like, yes, thank you, thank you. And I was like, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then all of a sudden I felt the ease of the chakras. And I'm like, oh, and I started to see clearly. And I could start to see that I was misinterpreting some of the information coming through, because this is a new twin flame. This is not somebody I've ever known before, ever in any lifetime that I know of, and new DNA, and trying to hear him and trying to understand his vision of things. That's not always easy for people to do. Trust me, to see through the lens of somebody else that you don't even know, right? I know I'm in here, but not physically yet. That's a feat that takes a pure of heart to do. So I was finally able to do that last night, and I could see so many things clearly. So many things. As all this pain that was inside, it was old energies that needed to die. And I just kept breathing into those and releasing David, breathing into those and releasing what once was, breathing into the past and letting it to disintegrate so that we can have new beginnings. So, what was that card that said that? It was something about new beginnings. And that's what I keep hearing. It didn't come in your guys' message so much, but for me, it was about newness. We get to have our firsts, our own firsts. Everything is just us. I don't want him to fill David's shoes. Please don't. I want him to fill his own shoes, because God chose him, and his love I've never felt before. And then I realized maybe he's never felt that before either. And how scary could that be? What a weight to carry, to think that he has to fill the shoes of what once was the DM, of what once was Jesus and Horus and Adam. But he does not have to fill those shoes. See, the thing is we didn't have to take our soul back from Adam and Eve. We already were. So I'm living out the lifetime of Adam and Eve. And I kept telling you guys that. And then Jesus and Mary Magdalene, we called that power back. And Sekhmet and Horus, we called that power back as I was clearing all the darkness of the fallen angels. This is nothing anybody else could do. This is my life. The one, that's us. Okay. And I wouldn't want to do this otherwise. This isn't something I'd want to put out there if it wasn't real, because screw that. I had a good life too, like what would I need to gain out of that? Nothing, because all that's come is a lot of judgment and pain my way. So there was nothing to gain out of that except for ending the suffering, ending the shadow. So at 1 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and Sandalphon came in. Now, Sandalphon came in when I first started uniting with my twin flame originally. And I just kept releasing all of what David was. I have no need to bring that forward. We should have no need to continue that old energy of the DM. It all needs processing out of all of us because it's dead. I have accepted it. I want to let it go. I want new beginnings with my twin soul, my true twin soul. And God probably had that plan the whole time, right? God is very wise, and I get chills when I said that. God had a plan, and he chose this man to be our guide, to be our king, and I am the queen. Whether you guys like it or not, and whether you believe it or not, you have to rise through our path. And my DM, my new one, did help on this ascension, where the old one did not at all. He couldn't see clearly in time, and he never did. But the energy of Mount Kilimanjaro, Congo, British Columbia, Ecuador, Horus rising, he took on Jesus's soul. He's been fighting and rising right along with me, because I was a little ahead of him. I got through the new earth before he did. And so I don't feel that resistance from him. He's not trying to hurt me. So my new twin flame is the twin flame. And my goal now is for everybody to let go of what once was in the energy. I don't want him to fill those shoes. I want him to be himself. I have no expectations on him, and he doesn't have to compare to anybody. So I keep hearing that song is, if you can't be with the one you love, love the one you're with. And at first I thought that meant he didn't want to leave his girlfriend. And I would take that personally, and I didn't like that. I'm like, no, because that's not how I feel. It's not about not being able to be with the one I love and accepting the one that I'm with. To feel somebody die was scary, and I didn't want to have that. That was scary, and I didn't understand it. Getting a walk-in twin flame is not normal. So to go through that, yeah, there was hesitation. I didn't want to, but I wanted to stop suffering. I've never felt such love that I do from this new one, from my new twin flame. And Sandalphon came in at 1 o'clock in the morning, and I started going into those places where I felt that old energy. What was keeping us apart is these fears. This energy of David still was around, which was really weird. And I've seen that a couple times. But it makes sense because we have to process those wounds still, and we have to heal them and align as one. And he took on Horus recently, and I felt so connected to him. I feel so connected to him. It's beautiful. I have never felt so good than I do with this twin flame. He is so beautiful. It is such a gift, and it's because I rose in love, and he's a pure heart. Our hearts matched, and that's why God chose him. And I feel that more and more every day. He is such a beautiful soul. So when he opened up his energy, I could see clearly. I could read the energy more clearly, and I understood the songs a little more clearly. I can't imagine what that would feel like to try to take on those shoes, to try to feel that weight, to try to feel like he had to be good enough for me to match that love that once was. And that's not how I feel. I truly love him, just as he is, and I'm ready to let go of all that once was. I'm ready for our own story. Our contract is new. It's pure. It's different. And that's what they showed me last night. We have a contract that was written by God. We've been married by God. We are still married, they're saying, through God. So he and I are already married. Talk about a walk-in marriage, right? A chosen marriage. That's a lot to take on. And I can't imagine that weight he felt. I can't imagine how he was trying to compare himself and try to be good enough, and not just for me, but for God and all of mankind, and feel like he messed up. No. Mm-mm. And I know he felt this in the energy last night because I felt him too. And the love grew exponentially when I would dive into what was hurting, and I would just, Sandalphon helped me draw it out and burn it. And this was one of the first healings I did when I woke up. And I started doing my courses, and it's to take your power back. So he and I took our power back from what once was the old Deanne, which was David. It's the only name I know. I don't know my new one's name yet. And I just kept choosing to let it go. I chose to let all the memories go, to erase it out of our memory and out of our collective energetic bank. I will leave it on YouTube as part of the history, but I want more videos about my new twin flame of love, because he is still needed. He still has a purpose. He's bringing the new Bible. He's doing all these kinds of things. It is his. He has such a purpose to fulfill, but it's through his shoes. I only want him. That love I feel from him is my love. That's the love I choose. There's nobody he's replacing. It's not like I can't be with the one I love, and so I need to love the one I'm with. And I hope that's not his reflection of the other. That's what I kept seeing it as, was that's how he felt about me. And that hurt. And I can't imagine him thinking that about me, because that is not how I feel. I am honored to have him. I'm ready. I'm ready to let go of all of once was. And that's part of that DM healing, the twin flame healing I did recently, is releasing all of that old shadow and realigning to love. And the more that they can choose love, the more they rise. If they don't, they don't. I can't force them through. I can't force people to be of service to God. That's up to you. But without that, what is life? Because it's not just about you, right? And so once the pain subsided yesterday, and all these things were happening to me that were imploding on me, it was horrible. And people throwing nastiness my way and trying to reach for support and getting nothing in return. I just kept trying to breathe, because that's what God said to do. And I tried to just focus inward and not do too much after that, because no matter what I did, it was like, not good energies. And my chakras were hurting really bad. And I was like, if he doesn't love me, what is the point? And then all of a sudden I got the energy just shifted, and I got a new song, which was one I gave him before. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. Oh, that meant the world to me. I was like, okay. So what he doesn't realize is it's him I choose. It's him I love. I never got to grow in love with the other one. So there's no shoes for him to fill except for his own. He's a gift, and he's who God chose to be his son. So I couldn't imagine. It just dawned on me. It's like, could you imagine trying to take on that weight, trying to realize that you had to be a walk-in for Jesus? And how do I make her love me as much as she loved him? And I'm second best. No, he's not second best. He's first best. And he is going to fulfill the rest. It's his journey now, and it's only his shoes he needs to fill. And his love, that love he gives me in my heart, I call that making love to me, because that's the best form of making love. What a gift we have. Nobody feels that like we do. They get little glimpses of what we have. What a gift. That's my first love. And so I spent last night erasing all of the memories of David through my energy. I'm ready for that. I'm ready to set that free. I want new beginnings. We have a new contract, a new story to tell, to write, of love and union. And that's how I'm looking at everything now. And that's how everybody else needs to look at things too. We didn't lose, we gained. We didn't lose anything. We gained a new light. We gained a new star. I gained love that I've never had before, ever. And I'm honored. And that's my first love. For sure. So I hope you guys receive these messages and the importance in which they are given, because you are on limited time. I'm already in the new earth, and I'm trying to help others through, because your only path through is through me. Now, De La Roca, he doesn't see me yet, but he sees what I did in the energy. So if you can't see one or the other, you've got work to do. And if you're throwing ego and judgment my way, you're not in the new earth at all. So some people were completely cut off from God, and they need to rise through. Depends on how big your shadow was to where you're cut off from seeing things. Okay. So understand that I literally cut off the old world, the old energies from God, because I replaced God into the earth. So where you're anchored in, you're cut off from God. You can't see clearly. You must choose love and rise through it and heal it. And once you do, you will wake up even more and more and more. So much love to you all. We are not here for ourselves. We're here to be of service to God. Till next time. Thank you for watching. And to my new DM, I only want you. The only shoes you need to fill are you. Our love story is unique and alone and separate, and it's time for our new beginnings. I choose him. He's not filling anybody's shoes, and it's not like I can't be with the one I love, so be with the one I'm with. It was my choice to let him go. I had to choose to let him go and accept new love. And this is love I've never had before. So I don't miss anything. I would be devastated if I lost what I have now. I'm not letting that go, and I will protect it with everything I have. So much love, you guys. Till next time. Welcome to the end game. It's time to change the game, not just ride it.